In orbit above the glowing blue and silver world of Varelia Prime, a human diplomatic ship floated silently among the stars. It was smaller than the alien vessels nearby, older in design and certainly not the most impressive. But it carried something rare in the galaxy, a human diplomat with no fear and a stubborn smile. Ambassador Elias Grayson adjusted the cuffs of his formal coat. He studied his reflection in the polished black panel of the airlock before stepping into the reception hall of the Galactic Accord Summit. This was the first time Earth had been invited. Most of the other species didn't take humans seriously yet. Many barely remembered where Earth was, but Elias walked in like he belonged. The hall was filled with creatures of every shape and color, some tall and thin like moving shadows, others glowing softly, a few speaking in smells or light pulses. There were at least 200 species in the Accord. The room sparkled with energy fields and hovered scents. Music from an unknown instrument floated in the air. Elias kept walking, smiling politely at the looks of confusion or curiosity aimed his way. He was used to being the strange one in the room. He liked it, and then he saw her. Princess Kalira of the Thalari Empire stood at the far end of the hall. She was over 7 feet tall, with shimmering violet skin and 4 graceful arms. Her eyes were bright silver, and her black hair was tied with golden threads that hummed softly with psychic energy. Around her stood members of the royal guard, unmoving like statues. No one dared speak to her unless invited. Her family ruled over hundreds of star systems, but she looked bored. Elias moved toward the refreshment table, just close enough to observe without being rude. Kalira's gaze drifted across the room until it landed on him. For a moment, something passed between them. A flicker of curiosity? Amusement? He couldn't be sure. He nodded politely. She raised an eyebrow. Before he could think twice, he took his glass of sparkling blue drink and approached her. The guards shifted slightly, but she raised one hand and they relaxed. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important," Elias said in the friendliest tone he could manage. Kalira looked down at him. Her voice was calm and smooth with a soft musical echo to it. "You are the human. Last I checked," he said, smiling. "Elias Grayson, ambassador from Earth." She did not offer a name. She didn't have to. Everyone knew who she was. "You are brave," she said slowly. "Or foolish. Why not both?" he said, lifting his glass in a small toast. "But if I were too scared to speak, I'd never learn anything new. And I've always wanted to meet a real Thalari princess." She studied him again, like a scientist looking at something strange but interesting. He leaned a little closer and lowered his voice. "I'll be honest. Ever since I read about your people in the Accord archives, I've had a silly thought in the back of my mind." She tilted her head. "Oh?" "I dream of marrying you," he whispered with a grin, fully expecting a laugh or an insult. Instead, the hall grew quiet. Too quiet. People had noticed. Elias felt the air change, the weight of many eyes watching. Kalira turned toward him slowly. Her expression didn't change. "Then I accept," she said. Elias blinked. "Excuse me?" "I accept your proposal," she repeated calmly. "You dreamed of marrying me. Now your dream begins." For a moment he thought she was joking. But Thalari didn't joke like humans did. Around the hall, shocked murmurs spread in a dozen languages. Some beings gasped. Others simply stared. Elias coughed. "Your Highness, if this is your way of testing a new species, I do not play with dreams," she said. "And I do not speak lightly in public. You spoke your wish." I gave my answer. "Is that not how your species begins a joining?" He had no answer. Just then a signal chimed in his ear. His assistant's voice came through the earpiece, low and panicked. "Sir, Earth Command just picked up the transmission. You've triggered 6 treaty clauses and 3 diplomatic codes. We have incoming messages from every major government." "What did you just do?" Elias slowly turned back to the princess, who was watching him with the smallest hint of amusement in her silver eyes. "I think," he said softly, "I may have just changed human history." Elias sat in the smooth, glowing chair inside the Thalari royal chamber. Everything in the room seemed to float. The lights, the walls, even the air felt different, like it was alive and listening. Across from him stood Princess Kalira. She looked exactly as she had in the hall, tall, graceful, powerful. Her forearms were crossed and her silver eyes were focused only on him. Elias cleared his throat. "So about that thing I said." Kalira did not smile. "Yes, you proposed. I accepted. He leaned forward slightly. Right, but I didn't mean it in a serious way. It was more like a poetic expression. Humans sometimes say things that sound big but aren't meant to be taken literally. Your words reached more than just me, she said. The entire Accord Summit heard them, and I gave my answer clearly. Elias ran a hand through his hair. So what happens now? Kalira walked slowly around the room. Now the empires will react. The high houses will respond. My family will demand answers. Your planet's leaders will panic. And my enemies, they will begin to move. Elias stood up, confused. Enemies? She looked at him. I used your words as a move on the game board. A very old and dangerous game. You see, Ambassador Grayson, I accepted your offer not because I believed in your dream, but because it opened a door for me. He waited. My family is not united. Some do not want me on the throne. Others do not want peace. If I marry someone outside the Empire, especially a human, no one will know what to expect. That makes me unpredictable. That gives me power. Elias blinked. So I'm a chess piece? If you are, she said softly, then you are the most important one. He sat back down. That's a lot to put on a guy from Earth. Kalira moved closer. Her voice lowered slightly. I know your people are new to the Accord. You are not rich in resources. You have no great fleet, no ancient technology, but you are curious, bold, and difficult to control. Elias raised an eyebrow. Is that a compliment? It is a fact. A soft chime rang through the room. A voice came through a floating panel. A message from Earth Command. Kalira waved her hand and the message paused. They want to recall me, don't they? Elias asked. Yes, Kalira replied. They fear what you've done. Elias gave a tired laugh. Well, to be fair, so do I. He stood up again and walked toward the wide window. Outside, stars blinked in the distance. Massive alien ships drifted nearby. Below, Virelia Prime spun slowly, half covered in silver light, half in darkness. You don't know me, Elias said quietly. You don't know what kind of person I am. Kalira stepped beside him. That is true. And yet you made a move that changes the direction of two civilizations. Why? She looked at him carefully. Because no one expected me to. That alone makes it powerful. He turned to face her. Then let me ask you something important. What do you really want? She didn't answer right away. For the first time, her face softened. Just a little, I want to rule, she said, but not like my ancestors. I want to break the old cycle of fear and pride. I want to open the empire. I want peace, trade, new ideas. But I cannot do that if I am seen as weak. And marrying a human makes you strong? He asked. No, but it makes me dangerous. And hard to predict. That is enough. For now. Elias thought for a moment. And what about me? What do I get? She tilted her head. What do you want? He looked back at the stars. I want Earth to survive. I want our voice in the room. I want to make sure no one can ever ignore us again. Kalira extended one of her hands. Then we help each other. He hesitated, and then shook her hand. Partners then, he said. For now, she agreed. The panel on the wall lit up again. Messages from multiple planets were pouring in. Some were curious. Others were angry. A few were already offering gifts or threats. The galaxy had noticed the strange human and the powerful princess. As the messages kept coming, Elias sighed and rubbed his temples. This is going to be one long week. Kalira gave the closest thing to a smile he had seen from her so far. Welcome to galactic politics. Ambassador Elias Grayson had traveled across stars before, but nothing prepared him for life inside the Thal-Ari royal fleet. Their ship, the Sarethkai, was not just a vessel. It was a moving city, a palace in the stars, and a symbol of everything the Thal-Ari Empire stood for: power, beauty, and mystery. The corridors were lined with smooth silver walls that shifted color depending on the mood of the ship. Strange plants floated mid-air in glowing orbs. Thal-Ari nobles walked with silent grace, their eyes full of suspicion whenever Elias passed. He was the only human on board, and every step reminded him he did not belong. But he walked tall anyway. Princess Kalira had told him they would begin the engagement tour. It was a traditional journey through key worlds in her empire, meant to show unity and give people a chance to accept or reject a royal bond. Elias wasn't sure how much of it was real tradition and how much was political drama. But either way, he was now part of it. Their first stop was a planet called Jareen, a desert world. rich in crystals and home to one of the oldest Thalari noble families. As their shuttle landed, crowds gathered to see the human ambassador who had dared to propose to their princess. Kalira stood tall in front of the cameras, dressed in ceremonial silver robes that shimmered under the twin suns. Elias wore his best earth-made suit, which looked plain next to everything else, but somehow made him stand out even more. People whispered. Some laughed quietly. Others stared in disbelief. One of the local lords, a tall figure with 6 golden eyes and skin like cracked stone, approached with a forced smile. "You bring unusual company, Princess," Kalira answered calmly. "You will treat him as you treat me. He is not a guest. He is my chosen partner." Elias gave a polite nod. "And I look forward to learning from all of you." The Lord said nothing more, but his eyes narrowed slightly. Later that night, a formal gathering was held inside a crystal dome that echoed every sound like music. Elias was seated beside Kalira, as nobles from different houses asked questions in strange, polite ways that often hid insults. Does Earth even understand diplomacy? Is marriage a legal or emotional concept on your planet? Do humans live long enough to honor royal vows? Elias answered with a smile every time. His words were careful, his tone respectful, but his mind stayed sharp. He told stories about Earth, about how his people had climbed from caves to space in just a few thousand years, about how they made art, music, science, and comedy. He told them how humans solved problems by thinking sideways, by refusing to give up, by dreaming beyond their limits. Kalira listened without speaking, her expression unreadable, but something in her posture softened as he talked. When the evening ended, she led him out onto a private balcony. The desert winds were cool under the stars. "You surprised them," she said quietly. "I was trying not to embarrass you," Elias replied. "You didn't. You reminded them that even small stars can burn bright." They stood in silence for a while. Watching the moons rise, Elias finally asked, "Why do they hate me so much?" "I haven't done anything to them." "It's not you," Kalira said. "It's what you represent. Change, risk, a world they don't understand. And people fear what they don't understand." He nodded slowly. "Back home we say the same thing." She turned to him. "Do you regret speaking those words in the hall?" Elias thought about it. About the pressure, the attention, the endless questions. About the future that suddenly felt too big to carry. "No," he said. "I don't regret it. But I do wonder what it will cost." Kalira's voice was calm. "Everything worth having has a cost." The next morning, as they prepared to leave Jareen, Kalira received a message in private. When she returned, her face was more serious than usual. "There was an attack on one of our border colonies," she said. "Sabotage. They say it was just an accident, but I know better." "You think it's related to us?" "Yes, someone is trying to send a message. They want to break this union before it begins." Elias looked out at the stars beyond the window. "Then they're too late," he said. "We've already started something bigger than they can stop." Kalira looked at him for a long time, then gave a small nod. "Then we move forward, together." The royal ship Sarathkai moved quietly through a blue nebula as the engagement tour continued. Stars blinked through the mist like distant eyes, watching everything in silence. Ambassador Elias Grayson stood near a clear viewing wall, sipping a strange warm drink that tasted like honey and mint. Around him the ship was calm, but he knew that wouldn't last. Princess Kalira had just finished speaking with the High Council of House Tareen, a noble family known for controlling several trade routes. Elias wasn't invited to that meeting. Some Thalari still didn't consider him worthy of sitting at the table, even if he was technically the future royal consort. He didn't mind being left out, not completely. It gave him time to think. Back home, Earth was still processing the news. According to the latest report, public opinion was divided. Some people were excited about the union, calling it the beginning of a new era. Others were afraid. A few leaders from Earth's larger nations had already sent him messages. Some congratulated him. Others warned him he was now not just a diplomat. He was a symbol, a bridge, and maybe a target. Kalira entered the chamber quietly, her long robes trailing behind her. Her presence, as always, changed the air in the room. "They still don't trust me," Elias said without turning. "They don't trust me either," she replied. He glanced at her. "That's comforting." She joined him near the viewing wall. House Taran wants to delay the union ceremony. They say they need more time to understand Earth's customs, but I know what they really want. Control, Elias said. Kalira nodded. They think if they slow things down, the Empire will return to its old path. Safe, cold, and predictable. But you don't want that. No, she said. I want something new. Elias turned to face her. Then we need to do more than visit planets and shake hands. We need to prove that this alliance is real, that we aren't just playing a game. Kalira's silver eyes narrowed slightly, curious. What do you suggest? He smiled. Take me to your homeworld. She raised an eyebrow. Virelia Prime? It is dangerous for outsiders. All the more reason, Elias said. If your own people can't see the bond with their own eyes, they'll never believe it. Kalira was silent for a moment. Then she gave a slow nod. Very well. But understand this, once we step foot on Virelia Prime, everything changes. That world watches closely. Every move, every word will matter. Elias nodded. I'm ready. The journey to Virelia Prime took less than a day. As their ship approached the world, Elias stared through the windows, stunned by the beauty of the planet. Towering mountains floated in midair. Oceans of liquid light flowed like rivers across the land. The city sparkled with crystal towers that sang low, calming sounds. The landing area was surrounded by royal guards dressed in silver armor. The moment the shuttle door opened, a soft wind blew through, carrying the scent of a flower Elias couldn't name. Crowds had gathered, not to cheer but to observe. There were no smiles, just silence. Kalira stepped forward, holding her head high. Elias followed, keeping pace beside her. Cameras floated nearby, recording everything. A voice boomed from above. Princess Kalira, daughter of the Star Line, we welcome your return. But explain the stranger who walks at your side. Kalira answered loudly, her voice calm but powerful. This is Elias Grayson. He is not a stranger. He is my chosen bond from the world called Earth. I walk beside him by choice. And I ask that you listen to what he brings, not just with your ears, but with your minds. There was a long pause. Then a second voice, soft, older, and full of weight, spoke from the shadows. Let the human speak. Elias swallowed, then stepped forward. I come not as a conqueror or a thief, he said. I come not to change your ways. I come to learn, to share, to offer something small but honest, trust. My people are young, yes, but we are bold, curious, we make mistakes, but we grow. If this union means anything, let it mean a chance for something better. Together. Silence followed. The crowd didn't cheer, but they didn't turn away. Later, as the sun set over the floating gardens of the capital, Kalira stood beside Elias on a wide balcony. You spoke well, she said quietly. Did they believe me? Some, not all. But it's a beginning. Elias looked out at the glowing horizon. Then let's keep walking. Kalira gave a small nod, her voice soft. One step at a time. Virelia Prime had a quiet rhythm that pulsed beneath its beauty. Elias felt it every morning when he opened his eyes, the soft hum of energy flowing through the palace walls, the whisper of floating gardens moving with the breeze, and the distant songs sung by crystal towers at sunrise. But peace was only on the surface. Behind the scenes, things were changing. Slowly, uneasily. The announcement of the royal union had reached every corner of the Thalari Empire by now. Some celebrated, some protested, and a few stayed silent, which worried Kalira more than anything. Silence in politics was never quiet. It meant someone was planning. Elias was adjusting as best he could. Every day he joined Kalira in her meetings, trying to understand the culture and the people. He spoke when asked, listened more than he talked, and learned the rules of their court. Not just the spoken rules, but the invisible ones. The ones hidden in tone, in gesture, in silence. Some nobles began to respect him. A few even greeted him without being forced. Others avoided him, but at least they no longer laughed behind his back. One evening, Kalira invited him to the royal garden, a vast, floating platform surrounded by glowing trees and gentle light. Only the royal family was allowed here. I wanted you to see this place, she said, walking slowly beside him. I came here as a child to think, to dream. It's beautiful, Elias said, touching a leaf that shimmered like glass. Almost feels like it's alive. It is, she replied. Everything here is grown through energy shaping. It listens, It remembers. They sat near a fountain that poured glowing water into a pool of light. Elias watched the reflections dance. "Do you ever wish you weren't a princess?" he asked. Kalira paused before answering. "Sometimes. When I was young, I dreamed of being a starfarer, traveling beyond our borders, seeing new worlds. But then I saw how broken our empire was, and I knew I had to stay. Because of duty? No, because of hope." Elias looked at her. "You really believe the empire can change?" "I believe it must," she said. "We've spent too long protecting what we have instead of growing. We hold on to old ways out of fear. But fear is a poor ruler," he nodded. "Earth knows that feeling. We've made a lot of mistakes, but the good thing about being young is we're not afraid to try again." Kalira gave a soft smile. It was rare, honest. "You were not my plan, Elias," she said. "But perhaps you were the right mistake," he laughed. "Thanks, I think." Just then, a soft bell echoed through the garden. Kalira stood quickly, her expression changing. "That signal is only used in one case," she said. "Council emergency." They hurried back to the palace where a communication chamber was already active. A large circular screen showed a Thalari general with sharp eyes and battle-scarred skin. "We've received a message from the outer colonies," the general said. "An unknown fleet crossed our borders." "No flags, no warnings," Kalira straightened. "Pirates?" "No, too organized. Too silent. And their technology is not like anything we've seen recently." Elias stepped forward. "Could they be testing the Empire? Trying to send a message?" The general looked at him briefly. "Perhaps. But there's more." The screen changed. A symbol appeared, 3 burning circles forming a triangle. Kalira's face went still.
"I know that mark."
"It's from the Obsidian Accord," Elias frowned. "I've never heard of them." "You wouldn't have," she said. "They're an old enemy. A group of former allies who believe the Empire has grown weak. They vanished years ago. And now they've returned," Elias said slowly. "Right after your engagement to me. They want to test our unity," Kalira said. "They think we're distracted, divided." Elias felt a chill. "What are they planning?" Kalira looked at the stars above them. "They won't strike directly, not yet. But they'll try to break us from within, turn others against us, spread fear." Elias understood. This was no longer just a political game. It was something deeper. A challenge. Not just to Kalira's rule, but to the future they were trying to build together. "What do we do?" he asked. Kalira turned to him. "We don't hide. We continue the tour. We finish what we started. If they want to break us, they'll have to try harder." Elias nodded. "Then let's show them what a human and a princess can do." For the first time in days, Kalira smiled fully. Together. As the stars outside burned brighter, the ship prepared to leave again. The future was uncertain, the path ahead full of shadows. But their steps were steady, and neither of them would walk alone. The royal ship Scifi moved quickly now, faster than before. The mood inside had changed. What was once a peaceful journey had become a mission. A message needed to be sent, not just with words but with action. The Obsidian Accord had returned from the shadows. Their symbol was appearing across outposts. Silent threats were being made. And, most importantly, fear was growing again in the Empire. But Princess Kalira refused to stop. "Our journey is not only about marriage now," she told Elias. "It is about unity under pressure." "If we turn back now, we prove them right," Elias agreed. Deep down, he had always known something would test their bond. He just hadn't expected it to happen so soon, or with such risk. Their next stop was Valanthor, a world known for its floating cities and independent spirit. The people of Valanthor had always respected the crown but had never fully trusted it. Many here believed the empire needed reform. Some believed it needed to fall. As their shuttle landed on the sky platform, Kalira stood tall in front of the crowd. She didn't smile. She didn't wear anything royal. She wore plain silver robes, just like the local people did. Elias walked beside her in a simple earth-made jacket, with no medals or symbols. They didn't want to be seen as rulers today. They wanted to be seen as voices. A group of Valanthor elders approached. Their leader, an old woman with glowing eyes and silver hair braided with light, spoke first. "You come at a time of fear, Princess." "I come because of that fear," Kalira answered. "If we run from it, we allow it to grow." The elder looked at Elias. "And you, human? Why are you here?" Elias stepped forward. Because this future includes all of us. And I won't stand in the shadows while others try to destroy it. The elder nodded. Then speak to our people. The platform opened to a gathering space. Hundreds of citizens were waiting. Some curious, some doubtful, a few angry. Kalira raised her voice first. The Empire is not perfect. I know this. You know this. But we are trying to change it. Not with weapons, but with unity. I chose this human not because he is from Earth, but because he stood beside me when no one else did. I chose him because he listens, because he sees the cracks in our walls and still wants to build with us. Elias stepped beside her. I didn't come to be a prince or wear a crown. I came because I saw something in Kalira that reminded me of Earth. Hope, courage, a refusal to accept things just because they've always been that way. He paused, looking across the faces. You don't have to trust me, but please don't ignore the future just because it feels different. Change is never easy, but it's always possible. There was silence. Then a young boy in the crowd raised his hand. Are you really going to marry her? He asked. Elias smiled. Yes, the boy blinked. Even if people try to stop you. Elias looked at Kalira, then back at the boy. Especially then. The boy grinned. Someone in the crowd laughed. The tension cracked just a little, but peace never lasted long. Later that night, while the ship was preparing to leave Velanthor, an explosion rocked the lower decks. Alarms blared. Guards rushed through the halls. Elias and Kalira were pulled into a protected chamber. A guard reported in a low voice. A sabotage drone was planted near the fuel core. No one was hurt. But the message is clear. Kalira clenched her hands. The Obsidian Accord again. They want you afraid, Elias said. They want us to doubt each other. We will not give them that, Kalira said firmly. We finish this tour. No matter what. Elias reached for her hand. I'm with you. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. The ship was damaged, but it was still flying. Repairs would take time. But the spirit on board was stronger than ever. The crew, once unsure of the human ambassador, now followed his lead without hesitation. Elias was no longer a stranger. He had proven himself not with power, but with presence. That night, while watching the stars through the window of their shared chamber, Kalira finally let herself speak softer truths. When I first accepted your words in the hall, I did it to make a point. I didn't know what would come next. Elias turned to her. Do you regret it? No, she whispered. Because you didn't give up. Even when I expected you to, he smiled. Neither did you. Their hands found each other in the quiet. Outside, the stars continued to burn. The storm was still coming. But something stronger than fear was growing now, and it would not break easily. The throne room of Virelia Prime glowed with a warm, golden light as Princess Kalira and Ambassador Elias Grayson entered together. It was the largest room in the capital, with crystal towers stretching high above, reflecting sunlight in hundreds of colors. Every noble, council member, and observer of the Empire had gathered. Today would not be ordinary. Elias felt his stomach tighten, not from fear, but from the weight of history pressing down on them. For the first time, humans were not just witnesses to galactic politics, they were part of it. Kalira walked ahead, her robes flowing, her silver eyes steady. Elias followed, trying to keep up but not overshadow her presence. He had learned that he was not the star here, she was. But beside her he had a voice, and it mattered. The council members murmured. Some still doubted him. Some still feared him. But the tension in the air was no longer hostile. It was expectant. Everyone waited to see if this human could truly stand beside the Thalari princess. Kalira raised her hands, signaling silence. Today, she said, her voice carrying through the high-vaulted ceiling, we face the future together. Not as separate worlds, not as divided houses, but as one united vision. She turned to Elias. Do you, Elias Grayson of Earth, stand beside me in this union? Not just in words, but in purpose, in challenge, and in hope? Elias stepped forward. I do, he said, his voice steady. I stand beside you, Kalira. Not as a guest, not as a visitor, but as your partner and as a representative of my people. I promise that Earth will work with you, not against you. A ripple of surprise moved through the room. Few expected such confidence from a human. The Thalari nobles leaned forward, curious. Elias could feel the weight of their eyes, but he held himself firm. Kalira smiled faintly. Then let this union not only be a promise between us, but a promise for the Empire. A promise of unity, a promise of change. A ceremonial chamber opened behind the throne, revealing a glowing nexus. It was a neural network of the Empire's rulers, a living archive where decisions of the past and the hopes of the future intertwined. Only the ruler could enter it fully, and only with another trusted soul. Kaelira stepped forward, placing her hand on the nexus. It hummed, responding to her touch. Elias followed, placing his hand beside hers. The energy flowed between them, a mix of human courage and Thalari heritage. For a moment, the room around them seemed to disappear. Memories of the Empire flashed through their minds, centuries of triumph, of mistakes, of fear, and of hope. Elias could feel Kaelira's childhood, the weight of duty she had carried, and the courage it took to step into the room with him at her side. He understood why she had been cautious, why she had hidden her feelings behind strength, and then she saw him, not just as a human, not just as a diplomat, but as a partner. Someone who believed in her. Someone willing to share both the burden and the dream. Elias felt the same. The Empire was vast, complicated, and sometimes harsh. But with her beside him, he realized that no challenge was too great. They could face it together. They could inspire not just humans, but Thalari and all who watched to believe in something greater. The nexus pulsed, and Kaelira withdrew her hand. Elias did the same. A wave of energy spread across the throne room, a subtle but unmistakable signal. The Empire had accepted them. Not every noble would be pleased, but change had begun. Kaelira turned to Elias, her voice soft. "We did it. We did," he replied, smiling. Together, the nobles began to clap, hesitantly at first, then with growing enthusiasm. Some approached them afterward, offering greetings, bows, and even smiles. Elias realized that the Empire had not only accepted him as Kaelira's partner, but also begun to accept the idea that humans could be more than outsiders. Later, when the crowds had dispersed, Kaelira and Elias walked onto the balcony overlooking the twin moons of the capital. The sky was a swirl of colors, the stars shining brighter than ever. Elias turned to her. "You know, when I first said those words in the summit hall, I didn't imagine it would come to this." Kaelira laughed softly. "Nor did I, and yet here we are." He took her hand. "I meant it then, and I mean it now. Every word." "And I," she said, her silver eyes glowing softly, "meant it too. From the first moment you spoke, I saw the courage behind your words, and that was enough to change everything." They stood together in silence, watching the moons rise. The Empire was not perfect, and there would still be challenges. But they had proven something important, that even two very different people, from very different worlds, could build something stronger together. And in that moment, Elias knew that the dream had only just begun. The galaxy outside sparkled with endless possibilities, and the human and the princess stood together, ready to face whatever came next. They had chosen each other. They had chosen hope, and nothing, not fear, not doubt, not centuries of tradition, could take that away. As the night settled over Virelia Prime, the future stretched before them, wide and bright. For the first time, the stars felt close, familiar, and full of promise. And for Elias and Kaelira, the adventure was just beginning.